Dr. Barry, licensed psychologist, and here I share legal and entertainment news from a psychological perspective. Today, we are staying with the Sarah Boone case. I just covered her interrogation, and today we are going to dive into some statements that her attorney gave to the news. And he has said that he wants to be the one that is fighting for her and that she no longer has to kind of fight for herself. There are going to be some things that are said, but there's court records that might be slightly different. So I'm a little confused about things like if he is going to get paid because yeah, so we'll get to that once we get there. But here is his interview with Court TV.
Phone Sarah Boone's ninth attorney, James Owens. James, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Vinny, for having me.
Okay, the first question I know everyone's asking you, why? Why did you take this case, James?
Well, I watch a lot of YouTube and I watch a lot of court TV, and I've been following this case just like all the other true crime people do, and kept watching it being delayed and the lawyers being switched, and then saw that the judge got fed up and ruled that she had forfeited her right to a court-appointed counsel.
So the judge got fed up. I don't think Judge Cranick did not get fed up. Judge Cranick said, this is going to be your last attorney. That's not getting fed up. Judge Cranick set boundaries for her. And this was the first time. The last judge I watched, was it Judge War? I don't know, starts with a W. But the last judge that had her case for, I think, 2 or 3 years, he seemed to get agitated visibly by her. Like, she's a very prickly person. And what I mean by that is, like, sometimes she says the right thing, but, like, the way she's going about it is manipulative. It's not being direct. It seems like she's trying to go around things. And Judge Wooten, thank you. Thank you. Yes. So, but Judge Cranick has set phenomenal boundaries with this case that we all desperately needed.
And so that's a rare event. As lawyers, we know that, everybody has a right to a lawyer, a court-appointed lawyer, if you can't afford one. So on a serious charge, a felony, in this case, it was a murder, for the judge to revoke that right was a serious decision on his part. I don't disagree. I respect the court's decision, but that left her facing a murder charge without a lawyer, which is unheard of, I think. And so, I watched for a while.
To me, those were the consequences of her actions. And I think the reason why she came into her last court hearing so giddy was the fact that she didn't have to represent herself. And I think she thought she got back at the court by finding somebody that would take her case. And Judge Cranick was like, I put in my order, if you did retain an attorney, I wasn't, except for extraordinary circumstances. And just that right to like timely justice, that like her need for whatever, just that we also have to balance it. And he is doing a phenomenal job doing that, in my opinion. I am glad that Sarah has a lawyer. Okay. So I am glad that somebody decided to take up her case. It was going to be so frustrating because I think she would have said, objection, that's not fair. Objection, it was not intentional. Objection, like she was going to not know what she was doing, and her lawyer will be able to have accurate objections. Like her lawyer will be able to help them pick a jury. I do hope that Judge Cranick does not let him out, because he picked this case knowing her history. He picked this case knowing all the issues that had happened before. In my personal opinion, he should not be let off for any reason. I don't care if she writes a 50-page letter to the judge again. Like I don't care what she does or says, what she claims. She should be stuck with him. Y'all are together. We're going to court October 7th. Like no matter what. Those are just my thoughts.
I saw the ad on your show, and I think that you had said something implying, hey, who's gonna take the case? What lawyer in Florida is gonna pick up the torch, so to speak? And I think you had somebody on, maybe it was a lawyer from the Northeast, and I think I remember that lawyer saying, man, if I was...
Even in this picture here, it looks like this eye Like, it looks like he has an injury right there to his the way I'm looking at it, it looks like his left eye. Like, it looks like he has an injury to his eye there, and I don't know what mugshot this is.
The license in Florida, I'd take the case, under that scenario, because she really needs a lawyer. Everybody needs a lawyer. And so the ad came out, and I sat there and waited for 3 or 4 weeks. I can't remember now how long I waited, but I was thinking that a lawyer out of Orlando would pick up the case. Somebody would think, hey, this is not right. There's no way she's going to get a fair trial representing herself.
Do you mean his real reason for taking this case? Do you think so clarify for me, Caroline, if it's Carolina or Carolina, to clarify for me in the comments. Do you mean why James Owen is taking this case? Clarify for me what you mean. Because I do have some general thoughts. I don't know.
It's unfair, but there's a gap in the system. The judge made a decision based on her conduct that she had forfeited a right to a lawyer. I believe that's where the private sector has got to step in.
Really?
Somebody in the private sector in that situation, and it's rare, should step in. So like I say, I waited. Nobody responded in the local area. So I just happened to have a case down in Hillsborough County that I was going to down in Tampa. And so I knew I was scheduled for court down there. So about a week before that.
Okay. So if you would like this video with no interruptions, okay? So all the psych nerds are here for my interruptions, all right? So do I think she will take the stand? So the streamer in me, if she takes the stand, I don't think it's gonna be good. I think, the good person, I don't know, like, the psychologist part hopes that she does not. The creator, if she does, it's gonna be bad. I don't think she can talk her way out of this. I think she thinks she can, which is a problem. And so I kind of hope she does, but I don't know if she will. Once again, the hoping that she does, that's out of pure, like, that would be really good but it would be bad. It would be bad.
I sent her a letter, and she had a third party contact me to, I guess, check me out to see if I was legitimate. And
well, I think everyone's been checking you out in the last couple of days, and everybody knows you are absolutely legitimate, James. I mean, you have quite a history.
I've been doing it a long time. I've been doing it a long time. So anyway, she reached out to me, and then a couple of days later, Sarah called me from the jail in Orange County in Orlando. And we talked for a little bit, and I explained to her that I was coming down that Wednesday, but I'd come down early and spend Tuesday talking to her, and she agreed. So I drove down Monday after work. Tuesday morning,
can you describe that meeting without, I know attorney-client communications is off limits, but how would you describe that meeting to someone? Like, was it different than meeting other clients for the first time?
The first meeting?
Yeah.
No, it was, it was a 4-hour meeting. I usually don't meet with clients in the jail for that long. So I gave her a chance to talk and just listened. For a long time, she had a lot to say.
4 hours.
Obviously, she's been in jail for 4 years. And, we had a good meeting. Just, again, I think she has trust issues because she felt like she did have some good lawyers that were on her case and just withdrew because they would get in some arguments.
Because she would allege that they were lying, that they were doing things that were like unethical. I don't know, like she made serious allegations against some of them, that they were incompetent. She called one of them names in the letter to the judge.
About issues, I guess. And so she said they wouldn't even tell her anything at the jail, but the next thing you know, she would, be sent to court, and the lawyer had filed a motion to withdraw. So she didn't, trust the lawyers because she didn't know who to trust. She'd been with so many. So a lot of it was just trying to build trust with her. After she talked a little bit, I told her a little bit about myself. So really feeling each other out and trying to build some kind of rapport was the first meeting, which was about 4 hours. But I think early on in the case, I was able to persuade her that I knew what I was.
I believe it was in person. It was in person because he was there. Like, he was in the area, I think. So I believe it was in person for 4 hours.
Talking about, because I was prepared. When I got there, I was prepared, and I played part of that 4 hours. I played the prosecutor, and I pulled out the jury instructions, and I made an argument as a prosecutor would make to a jury, and I had her sit there and listen to it. And I think that was effective. I don't think she had anybody.
He had pretend court. That's what this other streamer I sometimes watch. His what's the word? His thumbnail said, "New lawyer holds pretend court." Hey, I'm gonna be the prosecutor, and you see how this is gonna. It's not good for you. You need a lawyer. This is this is not good for you. So he held pretend court.
You ever do that to her and explain it to her that way of how it would
I'm sure somebody
play out in
Wow.
court? And that got her attention. And initially I was going down there, and let me tell you, my initial thought going down there was this: she didn't have a lawyer, and once that happens, once they're pro se, then you know as well as I do that all these cases are up for negotiation. Plea agreements are pretty much on the table at any time, and judges recommend, the courts recommend.
So he's going to say that he arranged a meeting where they could talk about plea negotiations. I am going to skip ahead just a little bit because I want to cover both of these and then also get to the Carly Gregg case too.
Point, she's now reaching out to you because she wants James Owens to represent her.
Well, we did connect. We did connect, and I think she was overwhelmed.
So I think after they got into that argument, I think he probably walked out, and he was done with her. And then Sarah called him at home, and I probably apologized, and he agreed to take her case.
She was stressed out.
Yeah.
She had all this discovery that she was trying to go over. She didn't know what she was doing. She didn't know the rules of procedure, rules of evidence, and she had told the judge, I think they'd had a couple of hearings on some issues, and she said, "Judge, this is not fair. I don't know what I'm doing."
So this attorney was present, not as her attorney, but just as a person that could maybe advise her. But when they met to go over plea recently, so this was, I think, the week of the 20th or something, I don't know. But within the last few weeks, they met with the prosecution, and the prosecution made an offer, and she declined it. They weren't able to get something that they could agree on.
And the judge kept saying, "Well, I'm sorry, ma'am, but this is your position." So I think she was just thankful that I came down to see her. We had, some good meetings. So I think she really needed some help. So I think that was partly to do with it, but there were still some issues because she was let down because I said I wasn't going to represent her.
Right.
So we got off the phone. I still said I wasn't committed to it, but I was thinking about it. But as you know, second-degree murder trial, and the judge had set a firm date for October the 7th, which is really difficult to do. I mean, you pretty much have to shut down your practice for 30 days, for 6 weeks.
Absolutely.
And just to try to catch up and just be, which is essentially what I'm having to do. Now,
well, you've seen the body cam, all the interrogation videos, the 911 call, and then of course the cell video. It starts there, right? But in terms of getting prepared in 30 days for this trial, that's 4 years old, and a lot of things have happened. Can you do it? And will you be ready?
Well, I'm gonna do my best with the time I've got left. That's all I can do. I'm gonna get some help. I've got to get some staff helping me. I've got a couple of lawyers that are buddies of mine that have offered their help. So,
I should send that lawyer from the Northeast down to help you. Joseph Krowski is the guy.
Yeah.
We'll let him know that he's the reason that you jumped in the case. He may fly down there to help you. He's up in Boston.
Okay.
It's cold. He may come down and help you.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I've got two lawyers that, like I say, I think are going to help me. I'm pretty much committed to it. They're friends of mine, and I trust them, and they want to help me. And they realize I thought the case was going to be continued. I respect the judge's decision, but I really, really thought.
Let me ask you this. Have you spoken to any of the other 8?
Yes. I spoke to Ms. Cashman, who was the last lawyer that had it. I've tried to speak to Mr. Padilla out of Miami. He's the one that had the case initially. He had it for about 2 years, maybe 2.5 years. He did most of the discovery, took most of the depositions. I think they were pretty much ready for trial or getting close, and he withdrew. But I've tried to call him a couple of times. I know he's been in a double homicide case they just got out of, but I never was able to speak with him.
And you're doing this pro bono? I don't think she has much.
No.
What are you getting?
Well, Sarah's got to pay me back one day.
Okay. Okay.
That was the agreement I had.
So the lawyer covered both of these, and he pretty much said that, that's not, she has to pay me back one day. That's not a firm agreement. That's, I don't know. And I think he's filed things with the court. Her notice that she was indigent or something. He's filed something saying he was pro bono. So that's where I'm confused if he's getting paid or not.
I wanted her to understand that she needs to be self-reliant, and she needs to be responsible for fees. I've got a bunch of clients that are paying me, and some of them only pay $50 a month. And but it's important to me. It's important to them, that we have an arrangement to make payments, and that's what I told her.
Do you think?
I feel.
Do you think she needs to tell her story in the courtroom?
Well, Sarah's a unique individual. I don't know, in a criminal case, is the time to tell her whole story. I think if it's necessary, she'll take the stand. We're just going to see how the case plays out. We'll make that decision when the time comes. Of course, she's got a lot to say. She's filed a lot of pleadings, a lot of letters. Some
We've seen them.
ill-advised.
Trust me, we see.
Yeah.
So James, this is what I want to do. I want to stay in contact with you, and we are legitimately going to reach out.
All right. So that was number one. Here is the other interview he did. And this one, warning, he is going to bring up an allegation against George's brother. I'm going to unmute it.
Needed a lawyer. I mean, I can't imagine our system. The case is an aberration. Okay, this just a gap in the system that hardly ever happens. At the federal level, on the state level, everybody charged with a crime is entitled to counsel. Okay, everybody, never unless the client, unless the defendant waives their right and wants to represent themselves, which is rare and foolish. But I understand the judge's ruling. We respect the judge's ruling. But that left Sarah in a position where she's standing in a courtroom accused of murder without a lawyer. I can't think of any other time that you would need one than in that scenario. So once that decision was made by the court, Sarah put an ad out. Somehow it got on court TV. I watch a lot of YouTube, true crime. I saw it. I didn't immediately act on it. I waited 3 or 4 weeks thinking that one of the members of the defense bar here in Orlando would pick up the torch. 3 or 4 weeks went by. It did not happen. I had another case down here in Hillsborough County in Tampa that I had to come down for. So I wrote her a letter about a week before that. And she had a third party, a girl from Minnesota, that reached out to me, I think first just to see if I was legitimate. They said to see if I think catfishing is what they thought I was doing, somehow, some fraud. I think once the third party realized that I was genuine, then Sarah called me. And we talked on the phone a couple of times, and I said, hey, I'm coming down that Wednesday for that court case in Tampa. Why don't I just come down Monday, which I did. I got done with court, I think, Monday at noon. I drove down 6 hours, spent the night, got up the next morning. I think that was on the 20th. And I spent about 4 hours with Sarah Boone at the Orange County Jail. During that period of time, I was in talks with the prosecutor, let him know what I was doing. He wanted me to file a notice of appearance. I wasn't ready to make that commitment yet. I didn't do that, but I got Sarah to sign a document essentially saying, you can speak to the prosecutor on my behalf. There was attempts to try to resolve it. If we would have come to terms, I would have filed the notice of appearance. We would have set it for court, set it for hearing, and the case would have been resolved. So we did make attempts like everybody does in every case. Any prosecutor, any criminal defense lawyer, public defender, you have plea negotiations. That's just part of it. So there were attempts to settle it. I was kind of like a mediator. I was kind of like a go-between, because once she became pro se, it's very difficult for the prosecutor to then communicate with the defendant. Actually, the rules say you got to do it on the record. And you can imagine not having somebody to negotiate for you, and she's trying to negotiate with the prosecutor, trying to send her to prison for the rest of her life. So somebody had to do it. I was doing it. But after those, so I met with her that day. I went over to Tampa, handled my case. I think I was done at 2:30. I came back. Well, Billy Lame, the investigator that's assisting Sarah Boone, pro se, he had scheduled an appointment to meet with Sarah that night. So I went back over to the jail. They let me meet with them. So the three of us met. This was, I think, the 21st, like it's set from 7 to 8:30. We met for about an hour and a half. And, at that point, we couldn't reach an agreement. And then I wasn't ready to represent her at that point. I immediately told the prosecutor that there was an impasse. There was no agreement, that I was not going to be representing her. I got in the car and drove back home, got home about 4. I had court the next morning at 8:30. I was done with the case. I did the best I could. I want to say 2 nights later, my wife and I were home, and Sarah called, and we talked again. Of course, I was still thinking about it, what to do, and but I told Sarah I still was not committed to doing it. That was on like the 23rd. Within that third party called a day or two later, and really nice lady that I really respect. We've developed a relationship, and she asked me if I would go one more time. So I flew back down. We met again a couple of times. I can't remember the dates now, 25th and the 26th. But both meetings went well. And you got to understand, Sarah's been through 8 lawyers, so there's some trust issues. And on both sides, I'm concerned, is she going to try to fire me, or we're going to have problems the same way, as you can imagine. But, I like her. She likes me. We communicate well. Um, I think we're both on the same page. And, I spoke to my family, my wife, my daughter Sarah about it. Sarah's thinking about law school, so I got their blessing. I have, some colleagues that I practice law with, a law group there in Milton. And obviously, it's going to take some staff to pull something like this off, especially knowing that the judge, I was in hopes he was going to continue it and give me 2 or 3 months. He did not. So we've got about 30 days. So I'm going to have some help from the staff. But we're trying to assemble a team right now. I've got a couple of friends that are lawyers that have indicated they're going to help me. And what are friends for?
Are you doing it pro bono?
I've been retained. I'm not doing it pro bono.
Who's paying for it?
Sarah owes me. Sarah owes me.
Can you speak a little more to your plan for defense about the battered spouse syndrome?
Well, I'm not an expert, but I don't know if we're going to be able to do that because we're time crunched now. As you know, I think y'all understand the rule now. We've only got till the 9th, which was today, the 3rd. We've got 6 days. So I'm going to try to pay for Dr. Julie Harper to fly down here later this week. She's actually from my area. The 2 experts that I had asked for, well, there's a third one, but 2 of them are from my area. Dr. Harper's from Okaloosa County and Dr. Berkland's from Escambia County. But I've been in communication with Dr. Harper. I think I'm going to get her to fly down here later this week to meet with Sarah several times. Hopefully, at the end of those meetings, like I said, she's already met with her, but it was 2 years ago. She met with her 5 or 6 times. Hopefully, she's going to agree with me that she does suffer from battered spouse syndrome. And so then if she's able to give me that opinion by the end of this week, my intent is to file the notice with the court and the clerk of our intent to rely on that defense. And then we go from there. That's really all I can say. It's up to Dr. Harper, not me.
So you've got 6 days to do that. Now, barring a Matlock miracle and that doesn't occur, what is your other, I guess, plan of action?
Well, Sarah's been sitting in jail for a while. She's looking for her day in court, and we all want justice to be served. I'm a criminal defense lawyer. I've been doing it a long time. The state has the burden of proof. They have to prove their case. I know there's some strong evidence in the case, but there are some explanations. I'd rather not get into my other potential defenses, but we do have some defenses. They've got to convince the jury beyond a reasonable doubt. That's all I really want to say. Just like any other lawyer facing a trial on a criminal case, the state has the burden.
All right. And I do want to get to the Carly Gregg case next, but the one thing that I did just want to make sure to say, because it does sound like, based on the chat, that he did file something. I will cover that sometime next week. Please. So Tanika, are you still here in the chat? Are you still here? And there's a lawyer. Y'all know me in names. I think it's Lori Reese, Reece. Uh, so I think there was I think I think there were allegations that Sarah has made against him, and George is not gonna be here to defend himself, to defend or to say what happened, the other side of that. If they do this defense, I don't know if Brian, her ex-husband, might have to testify about her getting physical with him. Um, Tanika's 2 cents. She pulls up the hearings, and the Boonies get together and have a lovely chat. And so if you wanna follow another creator, make sure to check out her channel as well. Lori Reese is a lawyer, and so, I really enjoy her coverage of things. And later in that interview, he brings up allegations that George's brother, um, unalived his girlfriend, and and he's been arrested. He's waiting for his day in court. I think that happened back in May. And but that is not going to be able to come up into Sarah's trial because they try to he's um the lawyer is trying to say these brothers were problematic, and my heart breaks for their family. Um, and also, so any victim, so any people that were harmed. So DV is not okay. It's not okay to put hands on people. It's important for people to safely be able to be safe. There have also been allegations about Sarah's brother as well. I know nothing about any of that, and I don't think the prosecution would even try to bring any of that up. I think people are responsible for their behavior. Sarah is responsible for her behavior. If George was still here, he would be responsible for his, and together they seemed toxic to me. Okay, so they seem to have a toxic dynamic. And so I don't know if she only had 2 sons, but if she did only have 2 sons, like my because that's just a lot for one family to go through. Traumatic grief, traumatic loss is hard, and that's where I think therapy, seeking support, losing a family member to murder is different than losing a family member in a car accident. Like if it was like now it's similar if it was like a drunk driver or something. Traumatic losses, they just hit different, and it's harder to heal from that stuff. And so that's why I talk about resources. I talk about how people can get help and support. And so all right. Thank y'all so much for joining me. If you want to stick on and talk about the insanity defense and Carly Gregg, who is a 15-year-old down in Mississippi that is currently on trial for, and I have to say unaliving. I know people, but like it's a YouTube thing for unaliving her mother and attempting to harm her stepfather as well. We are going to talk about that case next. So that'll be the last case for today, I think. Yes, because I might pre-record some stuff. If you're a member, watch out around 4 p.m. Eastern, because I might schedule some members only stuff, and then the members only information will be available on Saturday. So I will stream it live for anyone on Saturday, but it might be members only today at 4. Okay, watch out for that. I hope y'all have a good one. Bye.